Hi everyone from Giaco. After living over a decade in Finland, I decided to help building a bridge between the English-speaking people living in Finland and the local community. Listen to my podcast to discover the most interesting and incredible people from Finland and to dig into Finnish culture and controversial issues that impact all of us in our daily life. And now sit back and enjoy listening. Bye! Hi everyone. The following is a conversation with Shawn Huff. Shawn is an ex-professional basket player who has won Finnish, European and World Championship. With him we talk about his life, his career and how he became the successful player he is. We also talk about identity of immigrants and how practicing sport has been a pivot moment in his life, not only as an adult but since he was young. This was a deep conversation with a fun and cheerful person. Please enjoy. Hi Shawn.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Oh, good. Thank you so much again for being here. I already expressed my enjoyment and how humble I am that I can get you to talk here with us. But should we start can you tell who you are, how you describe yourself?
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me here. I enjoy doing podcasts, maybe because I enjoy talking, so it comes natural to me. But I'm Shawn Huff, basketball player, maybe, even though you should maybe add the X in front of it.
Yeah.
I would say maybe ex-professional player, but I do still play a lot. And when you've spent your whole life doing one thing, it's hard to separate see yourself from it, even after your career. So I'm still quite heavily involved in different basketball activities, among other things that interest me.
Can you still play? Sometimes I learned that if you play at the professional level and really intensively a sport, then you start, when you are older, you start to have knees problems, this and that, back problems. And I understand that basketball is quite heavy on certain parts of the body, knees and back. But can you still play? Do you feel that you are still strong?
Well, we have to understand that doing any sport at the high level is not actually healthy for your body because you have to. It's like a rubber band, and you try to stretch the rubber band as far as you can get without breaking it, and which is why we see injuries in different sports and high levels, because the practice is so intense. And in my case, years of refining the process of sleep and rest and recovery, nutrition, also practice habits, how to keep my body at the best level. I realized towards the end, having a sort of an exit plan the last 3 years, that there's never going to be a good time to retire. It is always going to be too early, or it's going to be too late in the eyes of others. Yeah. So I have to decide for myself, what do I want to do else besides basketball? But also, I have to sort of kind of like kill the baby. I have to understand that this is the end. They have the saying that athletes, you die two deaths, and the first death is when you kill your career. Okay. It's when you retire from your sport, because it is a part of you. It's a big part of me still. Yeah. And for me, the decision came from understanding how much the process took to get ready, and it won't last forever. And what a better chance to retire than the 22 European Championships with the national team, surrounded by my best friends from the basketball court. And I would never get this opportunity to retire so gracefully. Yeah. And still, to come back to your original question, yes, my body is intact because I feel like I got out just in time. Yeah. So I can still enjoy playing with my kids, running around. I still enjoy exercising very much. And also playing basketball at a lower level, but still playing, just enjoying the game the way it was supposed to be enjoyed.
So you felt like you went through a death when you stopped?
It is
the saying correct?
It is the saying, yes, I feel so, because it is such a big part of you being an athlete. It is every day. It is a process every day of getting ready, for the next thing. Everything you eat, you sleep, your life, everything is consumed by it. So when you retire, you have to find something new. And what I've also discovered is it is so intense. The sports world is so intense with emotion and of ups and downs. It is extremely hard to recreate this emotion anywhere else, and you kind of have to accept that.
So you become emotion addictive.
You do.
You need this kind of up and
you
down.
need this feeling of of pressure and excitement and performing in front of people, and but you have to understand when it's over, and and everybody has a sports ending when you're in sports, and you just have to accept it.
How does success feels at that level? Because I guess you say that how can you replace this kind of emotion? Can you get the thrill of going to the pitch, going to the ground and start before a game? But how can you recreate the moment in which you won?
You can't.
You can't.
You can't. It's impossible. It's over. You can feel bits of pieces. You can feel small things, but I can never feel the enjoyment of hitting a game-winning shot in front of 10,000 people, or going to the locker room with my best friends after an emotional win, or sharing the grief as well. Sharing sharing the disappointments with your team. It's these emotions run so high. It's you can't. There's nothing like it, really.
So did you feel after that when you? I was thinking when I was about this podcast that saying retired. I don't like it, but you came up with the X. I like this. Right?
Yeah, because we always say when you quit. We always say when an athlete quits something, we say ex-player or ex this, but in a way, I will always be a basketball player.
Exactly.
I just don't play professionally anymore. But
retired player, it seems that like you put when they say like boxers that they put the gloves on the nail in the wall. You didn't put the ball away. The ball is still with you.
Yeah, it's still with me in a way, and I'm still very involved. And I don't know. I just like to think of it in different ways to show that just because I'm not actively a part of it, it can still be a part of my identity.
Yeah. So did you feel that your life is extremely boring after you quit, after all these emotions?
Well, I can't say that it would be completely boring, but there is a loss of sorts. There's a loss, and you have to try to find something else to do, some other passion projects, and kind of just accept the fatality of ending your career. And I think this is an area where I have somewhat succeeded, is I've been able to find projects that interest me and projects that keep me involved, and where I find myself very motivated to succeed.
Yeah, that's really important to recreate an identity for yourself and feel that you have some meaning still to go forward.
It is extremely important, and I think my last years were well spent trying to figure this out, because a lot of time when we speak of athletes, it could be any sport, we always speak about the young athletes. Oh, they're making the biggest decision right now. Where do they go for development? If you go to this club, or maybe you go to that club, or maybe you stay one more year in your junior club, you need the experience. But then when athletes get closer to the end, we don't speak about how important the decisions are there.
True.
To exit the sport. Like, what are your plans to exit? Because a lot of athletes, it might come as a surprise. You're just not good enough. Nobody wants you anymore. Or maybe you have a tragic injury where you're not wanted anyway. So
you're compromised.
And all of a sudden, it's like, well, the shades get taken off from your eyes, and now you see everything else. And what do I do now? Yeah. And this is why I think it's important for athletes to realize at a certain point that your career will end, and maybe also plan for it.
Yeah, it sounds really wise. It's a good tip for all the sportsmen or sportswomen generally. You were telling about how intense the work of a professional sport player is, and you were talking about all this range of parts of the life: nutrition, sleeping, training, recovering. Well, I see somehow a really methodic person behind this talk. It's interesting. Can you explain a bit like how was your routine And have you been always this kind of person? Did you realize since the beginning, okay, that I have to do this and this and this and this, and this is the way I will carry myself?
No, not even close. I mean, I think I was just like any other teenager or young person, you know, just enjoying life. I was very motivated to practice, and I really loved basketball, so I spent a lot of time on it. But over the years, I picked up different habits, and I started understanding different areas where I could prolong my career and make better choices for my career. At a certain point, I was in my late 20s. I gave up sugary drinks, example, like sodas. I just I sort of taught myself to not have, you know, sugary drinks and things like this that come with nutrition. I think when my first child was born, I understood the importance of sleep.
That happens to everyone.
and the rhythm, the importance of having a rhythm. And if anything, my firstborn taught me rhythm in life, sleep rhythm and how to really get your sleep. I was always a person who could sleep any time of day, anywhere, but I don't know if I had a rhythm before that. So these were, and I think my biggest, most important things I did, I was in my 30s already, practice-wise. And even towards my last year, I made big adjustments in my practice and in my nutrition just so I could get the small advantage in the end, because your athleticism is always going down towards the end. But you can still get better in skill. You can still have great balance, for example, and your strength can be also good. Strength is something that you don't lose so easily. Yeah. So there's always little things you can do, and then when you're a competitive person, you try to find what is the one small thing I can do, and you become. I think I taught myself to just be very, very disciplined.
In some sports, of course, it comes clear also to the viewer. If you think about runners, that it's 1 centimeter more makes you win, or 1 second, 1 fraction of a second more makes you win. So you really are going to grind the last part of everything. You have to be perfect at the top on everything. Maybe in the team games, you don't see probably that as much because there is a team involved, but it's exactly the same.
That is an excellent point. And my wife, who was a track athlete, high jump, and from her, she taught me a lot about practice, your physical, your body, because I saw her, how she prepares for having the best ability to jump high. And then I compared how we practice to a game in basketball and say, we don't practice like this, but you're going for the best result of just, for your body to feel an athletic peak.
Because the few centimeters.
Yeah, because the few centimeters. And I'm like, but we're not doing this in basketball. And then I started copying her practice. I said, so I can feel better in the game also physically, what I can do. And you're right, with individual athlete, it is so raw for running. Running is the most simplest thing because it's something we can all do. You run and it's clear. You see somebody win, somebody lose. Yes. Yeah. But you're correct. When you play games, there's a sort of an element of skill and playing and teammates where you can get quite far if you're very skilled and you can play. Yeah. But then in the end, the competition gets better and better. You have to find this little advantage wherever you can. And those were the things I started finding later.
Yeah. So was it so that that as a team and being trained by your coach and by the staff, there wasn't talk about this way of and methodic way of training? Have you ever been exposed to this diligence, that be diligent, do this and that? No one has ever taught you this in your career. It was something you had to little by little discover by yourself and do it by yourself.
I think I always was a hard practice. Always was a player who practiced very hard. But I don't know if I was a player who always practiced the right things. So I always spent the time practicing, but I don't know if what I was doing was smart or if it helped me. But I always loved playing, so I was always playing. At a certain point, I realized, weight training, how much, weight training can help me. So I was doing weights. But still, I don't know if I was doing the best stuff for a basketball player in the weight room. But I was doing something. So I think in a team environment, there's so much pressure for the coaches to create a harmony within the team and think of the team concept. Sometimes, not all teams, but most teams, they might not have the time to fill individual needs for every person.
Okay.
But I realized in my career also that I do have time as an individual outside of practice or in the practice element to work on the things that I need to do. And I have to be aware of the individual that I can help my team if I can find the best exercises for me outside of the team structure that can help the team succeed.
Yeah. It's interesting because anyway, you have played in 4 or 5 different countries in Europe. You can mention better than me, but Greece, Italy, France, Germany, right? So you have been exposed to different type of teaching and coaching, but this kind of personal, trying to get personally the best version of yourself, this was something that was never touched in any country or in any coaching.
I think in the United States, it was when you're in college, because I was there also scholarship. And I think there when you're young, I think they spend more time on you individually as a player.
Yeah.
And also because they have, at least at that time, they had you for 4 years. So they see you also as an investment. So they try to help you. But in the end, if you don't want it, if you don't want to do the work, they can't force you, you know. But in all these teams where I played, playing professional basketball in Europe it's very much what did you do last game, you know. It is very
you go through
it is very the competition is very tough, and if you don't play well, it's bye next player is coming up. So in this sense, they don't invest in you always in the same way. They see you more as something
exchange
point. Yeah, they can use you, you know, for the better for team. But if you're not helping the team, then you know they don't need you.
Yeah. Okay. This sounds quite raw. I don't know. I have experience. I know knowledge from Italy and football, and of course the A League, the top league. But they invest so much in what they call laboratories. So they invest so much into developing custom-made and customized programs for each of the player, and they have quite clear all these areas that it's like nutrition, sleeping, training, flexibility, and also the psychological side of the player. So of course maybe there is bigger money running around, and probably they have a bigger organization so they can do that. But there is a lot of stressing that it's not only how many hours you spend on the pitch that counts.
Yeah. Football is so far ahead in I think in sports, but especially in Europe, the gap is very big. They're so far ahead. I had even as a professionally, I met some football friends, and I realized, you know, how they practice, how much science goes into the practice and the schedule, and I couldn't believe it because I felt that we're coming, you know, I don't know how many, 30, 40 years behind in basketball, you know, something. It's very old school, you know, the coaching. It can be very tough, but sometimes with no sense. And especially looking at the schedule and practice schedules, sometimes it's just about the feeling of the coach, what we should do. And they don't always, and a lot of time we can have trainers and we can measure, you know, player readiness and things like this, but if the coach feels like it's not giving you the answer he wants, then he's like, no, I don't care, we need to practice. And this is, I think, like you said, it's also about resources, you know. There's huge money in football, so you have to be, you know, you have to be careful with your investments. Basketball, it's not so big. I think in a higher level it's better, but it's not. Football they've taken it to the top level for sure.
Yeah, but NBA in America is still anyway.
Yes, you can compare it maybe to NBA. European football, you can compare it to maybe NBA in some things with the science and how they build. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You, as we were saying, you played around. So can you tell us how your career went? Because you were in college and you were also drafted for the NBA.
No, I wasn't. No, I wasn't drafted for the NBA. I came straight to Europe after my college career.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how then did your career develop?
Well, I like to tell the story of my career is actually it's a string of failures. It's a string of failures and really, you know, getting up after every failure, you know, in Greece, you know, failing, getting up, trying again, failing, getting up, trying again, leaving middle of the season to Italy, finding success, then finding individual success but failing as a team, then also losing this individual success again, and then finding it again. And it's a lot about, bouncing around until I really found my home, I think, in Germany, and I really found the balance, and that's where I played my last 6 years. But there was like a half-year period that I went to France, which was also a period of failing for me again. But it is really characterized by all the failures and how I got up every time after every failure in my professional career.
Well, I think that's kind of life in general.
Yes, it is, and it's because what hit me like. It hit me before when you said like, oh, like successful career, but it's also like, I think if you ask anybody, unless they're the best player in their sport, they think they could have been better.
Yeah.
They always because you always look at somebody who's maybe better than you, like
and there is always be better.
And there's always somebody better until maybe you're the best, but this last person who is the best, they think even they can be better than that. So it's always, always as an athlete think, what can I do better? What can I do a little bit better?
Don't you think that it's probably a basic requirement to be one of the best? It's that you always strive and you always try to be better. So I guess that's why it's so common for sports players or successful people, that they anyway always fuel themselves with trying better and do better and filing, so meaning like scratching and trying to sharpen all the possible weapons they have, from physical to mental. So I guess I'm not surprised that you feel like this, because otherwise you will not reach success.
I think this is the process, You always think, how can I get better? How can I get better? And I think this kind of defined my career, is how can I make myself better each year, every drill, every practice, and what is the small edge I can get to get me always to the next level.
Yeah. And how did you keep doing all this? Then I want you to explain this difference between individual success and team success. But so between all this failing, how did you keep? You said that you just like pushed through and you tried to get better. How was your psyche, and what did you think in those moments when you were like there and saying like, okay, now I failed again?
It was not easy, especially when I was a younger player. I think having the national team in the summers helped me a lot, because the national team was a place where I really got to play with my strengths, and I always played well in the national team, and I always competed at the highest level with the national team. Yeah. So I knew it was always there. And once you get older, you start knowing yourself as a player also. Yeah. And then you also know like in what roles you can succeed, and you start to differentiate like, when am I doing something wrong that I need to be better, and when a situation is not just good for me as a player because this doesn't help me play with my strengths. And because you understand this towards the end especially. And that's why I think professionally I played my best years towards the end, because I was mentally more mature and I realized better my strengths and my weaknesses.
What are your strengths?
As a basketball player.
Yeah, as a basketball
player. Shooting. I was kind of a jack of all trades, so I could do a little bit of everything, which meant that if you put me in the role of a specialist, I will not succeed, because there will always be a better specialist than me. Yeah. And I would always succeed better if the more things I could do, I can help the team, and I can always like plug the hole of where we are weak and kind of help this. And this was the best part of me, how I could help the team.
Yeah, something that I read about professional players and older players is that might seem funny, but they talk about, as you said, that when you become older, you learn more about your strengths, and that's for sure normal, like a learning curve that everyone goes, even career, whatever it is, and a person, but also that they learn the game.
Yes.
And that's something funny. You think like, okay, you've been playing this for like 20 years. How can you say that now finally you understand the game? You would think that like, okay, the game has rules. You've been playing that since a boy, since a girl. You should know the game. But it's actually much more in detail, the thing that you understand the game. because you see it from a perspective from within, and you learn the dynamics, you learn this position, and you learn almost kind of, you know what is happening, and before it happens, you know, the consequences. So I found it really funny to learn that, like, okay, they learn the game. I thought it was a given, but now you said that you can feel the holes when you see the team dynamics. So probably something also you went through.
Yes, for sure. And it's I succeeded in different type of roles, and I think a lot of coaches are surprised. A lot of coaches, a lot of times when maybe we have an injury and we lose a player, and now I have to play a different role, but I might play even better in this role than before, and I might have surprised coaches like, oh, he can do it, because I was always the team player first, which is, I have to say, which served my national team very well, but as a professional player is maybe not the best attribute at the level I was playing, because you have to have more, maybe a certain selfishness, you know, to find this individual success. But I think to your comment about learning the game when you get older, I think it's about recognizing patterns and recognizing, you know, what's happening, because as a young player, you're kind of, everything is sort of new. And then, you know, because of the rules are always the same and you see the same plays over and over again, when you get older, you just recognize them so much faster, what happens. And it's really, I have to tell this, but my last year, it was funny because the athleticism is starting to go away. But I recognize the patterns so well. I see everything on the court. And what was funny is that I could do something right and I could see an opening, but my body was not fast enough to get to the opening. And I can fake a player, you know, and he loses balance. And I go, but he can still recover because I'm not quick enough to take advantage of this. And this is in my mind. Like my last year, I was laughing because I'm like, I'm just not, my body is not
reacting like
it's not able to take advantage of the patterns that I see anymore. So now I have to like, I have to adjust to adjust to this a little bit. Like, how can I be better in this? And when I knew this the last year, I was like, oh, it's not going to get better than this. I might as well step out before I can.
The stories about the learning the game. I was reading at one point about Pirlo, that it's a center field player in
oh yes,
in
I
Italy.
know. Yes, yeah, famous player.
Exactly. And he was explaining this. It's always the same. It's a big field and there are many people playing, but the center field knows the position of everyone behind and everyone in front.
Yes.
And so you have to take care of much more. Your brain has to deal with much more information and then make the right choice in fractions of seconds. And he was talking about this kind of helicopter view that it started to have at one point of his career. Again, the physicality goes down, but something that it's experience and matureness, probably you get more mature in the game, in the way you see it, would allow him anyway to keep a really high level of playing, because he would see things kind of from the top. And he knew every player at every second, and also the opponents. So it's pretty interesting how actually physical quality and level, it's not probably the only thing that matters at this level in a certain time of their career.
And I can relate to this in a way that the game, you get this view of the court. You know, you get this view, and it's like. The game gets slower in a way because you see it so many times. You know, it doesn't feel so fast anymore.
So hectic.
It's so hectic. Yeah, when you're in the game, it doesn't feel so fast. You know, when you're watching, it might feel like things fast, but when you've played for so many years, it's slowed down, and you know where everybody's supposed to be in this place here, and you make these calculations so fast in your head, in your mind, that you know that. And you know the opponent too. This is what this player do, so I have to go here quick. I can fake here and go back. I know somebody's behind me doing this, and then you move. And there's also collective experience with this too. If you have players you have played with for a long time, it's also it's almost like you have a connection with them of not even speaking, of knowing that this and this, and
they might know what you're going to do.
Exactly, and they see it, and you know what they're going to do because you've seen them so many times do it before.
Yeah, you were talking about this individual success and then the team success. can you define, because you have them split in you think them as a two things.
As a professional player, of course, there's. I feel like if the team has success, then every player who's a part of that team will also succeed in a certain level. But also, you as a player contributing to this, you want to be. How can I say this? You need some type of stats also as a player, to contribute to a team,
Yeah.
And I think, being a team player, I've never thought of this so much before, but I understood playing professional how, you have to be certain level selfish sometimes for these stats. And I feel like one of my best individual years as a player was maybe the worst with the team success. We finished in the last place, but it was my most successful year individually. And it wasn't because of me that we lost. I can say this in the end, because we just didn't have enough good players, and this was bad. But I feel like you can be individually good sometimes, and the team can be bad. But if the team is good and you have team success, it will bring all the players along.
Yeah. What gives you most pleasure, the team success or your personal success?
For me, it was always team success, which is why I think I played my best games with the national team, because it was so pure. It was just playing with your friends, type of playing with your family. You don't care who does anything like this. You just want to solve the problem and win the game with your team.
So playing for the national has a different spirit within.
Yeah, for sure. At least for us with the national team of Finland, it was very clear from the beginning, spending all summers together, that it was just a sort of family atmosphere.
Is this something that automatically was created by just being Finn and having a certain understanding of what you are doing, or is it something that the coach has created?
I think the coach created this. Coach created the environment where it's possible.
Yeah.
This is how far a coach can do it, and then after that, the players have to take it from there.
Yeah.
But he made everything in the environment so that it can happen, and then when it happened, it was amazing.
Yeah, that's something that also I understood and read, that especially, well, it can work both also for experienced players in other teams, not in national teams, but in leagues. But the coach is a facilitator, because the people, they have the skills. They come anyway with training, especially if you're in national. You have all the year behind, so you've been training. It's not that you've been laying around. So the players coming to play in the national team, they anyway have performances. Okay, they have a career, they have experience. And the work of the coach is to facilitate and to create this atmosphere and get them work together. It's not anymore. I mean, it's slightly different, the work of a coach.
I think in the beginning it wasn't like this. When I started with the national team, Henrik Detman, who was the coach my whole time there, in the beginning we started more with preparation training, getting the body ready. And I think over the years, as he got to know the team, I think we got more trust with, okay, we start 1 week later, but you have to be physically here. Then, certain point we start, 2 weeks later. We start 3 weeks later. And then maybe we start only 6 weeks before the first important game, but it's like you have to be physically ready, because now, like you said, now we start facilitating with the team. We don't have time for, you to run heels anymore because of the team. But I think it was a trust where he wanted to see the players, how committed they are also. And I think because they're good environment, most, like, everybody, when we came to camp, we were ready to play.
Yeah.
We have done all the practice by ourselves, so we get more time with our families, more time to practice with ourselves. And I think this trust created a good environment for the national team.
Yeah. I think it's funny. I kind of felt that, like, of course, when you care about other people you're playing with, you do your own work. You prepare yourself before, because you're going to offer them and they're going to do the same for you, and then you're going to have a good time. So that's probably much more powerful, that the need to prepare and be ready comes within you, and it's not a coach saying, now run there, You have 2 minutes and then push-ups. That probably doesn't motivate that much.
It motivates, but it has a ceiling. It has a ceiling, you know. You're so correct. You know, motivation, you know, that comes from commitment and trust to your teammates is so much more powerful because now you don't want to let down your teammates. You're like, oh, I don't want to let down my friend. I don't want to let down my brother. You know, I have to do everything for him also. And this ceiling is so much higher for a team. When it's more difficult to create, but the reward is much bigger.
Yeah. I also read some of your comments and articles when you were coming back to Finland and stop playing outside from Finland, that you were talking so well about Finland, that Finland is the best place anyway to live and stay. So after traveling around and seeing different societies in different situations, you anyway had clear that you wanted to come back to Finland at one point.
I mean, I loved my time living outside of Finland. I have so many great experiences living in different countries, but it also made me realize how much I love Finland because it's my home, because I grew up here. This is what I know, and all the great things that are here also, it made me appreciate those a lot more.
Yeah.
You know, of course, we can have great meals in Greece, you know.
Or in Italy.
In Italy, I was gonna go Italy even better. You know, I think of the aperitivo we have, the good times, and also just the social community in Italy is so different and it's so much fun. And this is the country where I learned how to drink coffee. You know, Italy taught me how to drink coffee, and place like this, and it can just. It's such a great experience also. But then, everyday life with having kids and things like that. And also it's just, I think it's home. I grew up here in Finland. So of course, in the end, you're going to miss it and you're going to want to come back.
Yeah. You come from a family that has basketball and sport heritage, correct?
Yes, for sure.
Your father, Leon?
Yes.
Yeah, he was also playing basketball.
Yes, he played at a pretty high level. He played for the U.S. national team a few games when they had they came over to Finland, and then they went to the Soviet Union to play the team of Soviets.
Yeah, and your father came here around the 70s, right?
Yeah, 70s.
Yeah. And you were born here, so from your father from America and your mother Finnish.
Yes, that's correct.
Has this sport influence affected you? Were you meant to become a basketball player because of your father?
I don't know. My father was always, he never wanted to pressure me to play basketball. So he never asked me to play basketball. So he asked me to play other sports. And which is why I think I didn't start playing basketball until I was 12 years old, quite late. I think I had some bad experience playing for a club when I was like 6 or 7, so I didn't really like it. But then at 12, I got really excited about the chance of playing basketball, and I joined the club. And after that, I think because I started later, I was so much more behind.
Yeah,
it gave me more of a fire to learn. I have to learn fast. I have to learn everything faster. And of course, afterwards, I felt like it was almost meant to be it this way.
Yeah, it's true. It's kind of late, 12 years old, because when you hear some stories, both from all the sports, it seems that the kids, they are grown like already wearing a football shoe or a basketball shoe. So it's kind of like since the time zero they were practicing, and that's where they learn and why they are so supreme.
Yeah,
but for you, it was
basketball as a sport is a sport where you can mature later. Definitely. I think it's a sport that some skills, of course, is better if you're younger, but you have a chance later to learn the things in basketball.
You are part of a documentary and from Arto Halonen. It's Home and Away in English, but it's Suomen juurtuneet. In that documentary, it's explained this generation shift and change from your father coming here to Finland, and then you were born and raised in Finland. What is your experience as like a next generation of Finn and of course you have half race, different race. The documentary talks about kind of this racism and the difficulties to integrate into a different society, and it's something that probably sometimes it's misunderstood, and we can go further on that. But can you tell us about this, your experience as a boy? You raised in a family of a certain type, living in a certain society. How was your experience of?
I think the Arto did a great job of first, documenting, our lives for this short period, but also.
But it was quite a long period.
Yes, it was 3 years.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
so short period.
Long period for documentary, but maybe short period in life. But yeah, it was a long time. In the end, I was like, "Oh, Arto, are we gonna finish this?" But no, it was.
How much was he filming? Or they filming?
He was there a lot of times, in important cases and stuff like that, and a lot of games and a lot of trips. He was there, and he had so much material that he had to edit for the end. It was. I can't believe they went through all the film that he did.
Yeah.
It was, I can't remember how many hours, 300 hours or something silly. It was amazing. And what I was saying is that I think for me it was always about finding my identity of who I am, which we touched a little bit of, my interviews about coming home and how also understanding that Finland is my home.
Yeah.
This was also a process. I didn't always know if this was true, because I am some of the first generation of brown Finnish people who have born here. So because there weren't people who looked like me who spoke Finnish, it was very difficult for me to build my Finnish identity or also confirm, is this who I am? So I gravitated very strongly towards my father because I can see more Black culture in American culture.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of drawn to this, to find who I am. But pretty quickly going to college, I realized I'm not American, I'm Finnish.
Where do I belong?
Yes, exactly. Where do I belong? So it's kind of a journey of finding myself and finding the identity and also accepting myself of who I am and then carrying that proudly and then understanding that, through basketball and through national team and through the lens of being the captain of the national team, of carrying this torch, I can kind of in a way carry the torch of being a proud Finnish person and showing this to people and this is a message that I've wanted to bring out ever since at least as long as I was the captain of the national team.
Yeah, that's really important. Successful story that can inspire, they are really important because they leave a mark. And especially me also as a foreigner, technically Finnish, but foreigner, I've always seen and noticed the Finnish society, how they praise and how they look upon sport and sportsmanship and successful people in sport. Regardless what is the sport, if some Finn succeed, even if it's on the other side of the globe.
We love sports.
Yes, it comes to the news and the person is cherished. And I believe, I understand that also, like, if not at the government level, but at least at the commune level, cities, they help the sports.
Yes, they celebrate.
They celebrate, and some cities might even give like properties or other things to successful sportsmen or sportswomen. So that's really nice. It's somehow integrated. It's deep in the society how sport it's considered, and it's really good that you show this example, carrying the torch and having this kind of background. Why did your father moved here to Finland? Was it for your mother?
No, it was before. They actually met after. They met in the 80s. My father came here, I think 74, 75, to play basketball. I think he kind of fell in love with the country. You have to think of the time when my father grew up in a stage. It was in the 60s, and there were a lot of riots. Well, not riots, but there were a lot of demonstrations. There was a lot of segregation in schools, and where he grew. And when he came to Finland, it was more of a peaceful place, and he found a good place, and he kind of found a home away from home.
Yeah.
In a way. And I think having stayed here for a while, and then I think after he met my mother, I think after that he figured he'd stay, and then you know, I mean, they ended up splitting at a certain point, but at that point, you know, he has his 2 sons who are still growing up, and so he feels like it's home here. And
and he was coaching and playing here. So
and then all of a sudden you realize you've spent most of your life in Finland, and this becomes your home.
Yeah, you look behind.
Yeah, you look behind, like, okay,
this happens to me too. So I understand, I relate. And you were born in Helsinki.
Yes.
But then you moved to Jakomäki.
Yes.
And also in the documentary you go through this identity and being like the only different skin color person otherwise in a school full of white Finnish people. And now you were saying that you had some bad experiences with playing basketball when you were younger. Are these two things connected?
No. I always try to. I had a great childhood. You know, it was amazing, and I think part of it was growing up in Jakomäki, which it gets a bad reputation as a place because socioeconomically the place is not doing well with the numbers. You know, so it's a lot of so people feel it's not a great place. But as a kid, I felt like it was a wonderful place. There's so much nature. It's an area that's kind of closed because the roads go by it. The big road to Porvoo goes on the other side. One to Lahti, big highway to Lahti goes on the other side. And then there's this road that goes kind of around Jakomäki. And Jakomäki is really a closed center. So as a kid, you have a lot of room to run around and go and play. And you have, their house is over there. I can go play at their houses. They have some good games there. Yeah. And it's really... I felt like there was a lot of freedom as a kid of being outside and playing outside. And what I also try to explain to people is, yes, of course I experienced some racism as a kid, but this didn't define my childhood. Yeah. I feel like it was a part of it, and it was an ugly part of my childhood, but my childhood was more inspired and more defined about the good experiences I had, the amazing families, the amazing kids that I met who I was playing with every day, and things I have. And I'm so grateful that I got to grow up in a place like this in Jakomäki. And this is why I realized at some point I always want to bring this up of where I'm from and also be proud of it.
Yeah. But, so what kind of racism did you experience? Was it from your classmates, or was it from people from grown up?
Well, I don't know. I don't like talking about it in that sense because I feel like it victimizes me in a way. But I can say that there were experiences from maybe teachers not realizing that I'm actually Finnish. Maybe because they haven't seen a brown Finnish kid, so they don't always understand this fact. It can be, it can be some grown-ups in some way. It can be kids who don't understand, but it was like because there are also, in some, how can I say this? I was brought up in a way where I felt like I had the tools to deal with it. As an individual, from my home and from my environment, I had the tools to deal with the things that happened, and they weren't things that held me back from succeeding as a person in a way. Of course, they gave me some grief, and I shouldn't say that. I should say, like I said before, I had tools to deal with it, where things could have became a burden, but they didn't because I had, we had gone through these things with my father and my mother in a way.
So you brought these topics at home?
I think my father is very enlightened in this because, like I said, born in 50s and 60s in the United States. So it's really, racism and segregation is really close. So of course he talked about this, and he of course he understood that also at a young age, you know, for me to understand the world and understand what's going on, I need to know who I am as a person, and he has to give me the tools to survive.
Yeah, because well, I have small kids, and they here in Helsinki, and they've been to daycares, different daycares, both in the center of Helsinki, then slightly around area like Oulunkylä, Maunula, and they have been exposed to all sorts of races and colors. And since they are young, and we're talking about daycare time, so from age 3, 4, 5, 6, and you can see that at least, and I was really happy, of course, because it's racism is something that I'm fairly against, deeply against. That the kids, they accept people and other kids as they are, as face value. They don't think, and they second guess, like, okay, why this person is different color, or why this person speaks another language. Also, of course, they come from a family where I speak in Italian. So
racism is learned.
Exactly. And normally it's, of course, there are cases of racism and people that they have, let's say, maybe a more concrete reason to be racist. Maybe they have bad experiences. They have grounded fears. But normally it's based on fear and on stereotyping.
Yes.
So you think that, like, okay, that person, just because it looks like this, then it's you're stereotyping. This is bad because all the other are bad.
Yes.
And these two things don't normally belong to kids, because they don't have formed yet an idea that, like, there are stereotypes. They always face people as they are, and that's really unique. That's pure. It's really nice to see kids in that environment. And they don't have experienced fear, and no one is putting fear on them. So I think that, of course, you have had experiences, but I kind of guess that the school environment and being with kids, you had the normal basic Finnish experience of your childhood, because kids would take you as Shawn.
Yeah,
the nice guy. Let's go and play with him.
Yeah, definitely. Most of the kids, I was not like, because it wasn't in a way. Because the racism didn't come from the institution in a way, which can be more difficult. Which I can say I've had, you know, a tough experience, you know, in the army, but also, you know, a tough experience with some, you know, background checks because know because of this. And I think in the end it comes down to that we as people, we always want to be treated as individuals, you know, like judge me for my actions.
Yeah.
And I think with minorities, a lot of times we judge from what some minority do, we judge the whole group.
Yeah.
And it puts a stamp on the group as a
the
whole.
Stereotyping, it is shallow. No,
yeah, and shallow. A lot of people, they just want, like, just judge me for who I am as a person, you know, accept me. And then this is something that just minorities don't really have a chance. You know, you have to always kind of, you have to prove yourself to be correct first when you're a minority. But when you're part of the status quo, it is assumed.
It's a given.
It's a given until you do something bad or until you know, prove that. Yeah. But minority is the other way around. You have to first prove that you're a good person.
Did you feel like you had to prove something through your life or through sport because of?
Yes, it's a given. It's in my everyday life. I understand you know, the stereotyping. I understand the situation, how it is. I understand that it's almost my responsibility to diffuse situations when I'm in them, and especially as the captain of the national team, I understand that if I do something bad or make a mistake as the captain, it's not going to be, you know, it's not only me who's going to be judged, but all the people like me, all the people who look like me will be judged. So I carry this burden also as the captain of, I have to do the best job I can ever do, so I can, you know, prove a point.
But it's really important. That's like one of the center point of this conversation, and why I wanted you here. This the identity of the second generation of immigrants, because it's something that sometimes it's misunderstood or not focused on. And you said it, that like you were here and you felt like you're Finn, and then you go to America and those are the roots where you're from, but you understand that you don't belong to there.
Yes.
And so you're kind of like, of course, you call yourself a Finn, and
Yes.
finally your identity crystallized in that. But a lot of, for example, of criminality and young criminality has been talked and showed that second generation immigrants, they don't know what they are doing in Finland, because they go home, they might have like let's say a full Indian environment or whatever other race environment, because their parents have moved here. But they were born in Finland, raised in Finland, so they speak perfectly, they have Finnish friends, but still they are not treated as pure Finns. So they are like in between different cultures. They are not fully understanding themselves as Finnish, but then they are detached from the old, from their parents. And then, of course, kids have to detach from the parents one day to get their own identities. And that's a sweet, delicate spot in which some people can fall into criminality or start doing things that out of the law, or that are not good for themselves or for the society. So it is a really important segment of population, the second immigrant, and how do they recognize themselves into the society. And I think it's really good you were explaining that you carry the torch of the team leader, and it's really good you are making an example and showing a possible path for second generation immigrant, that actually your life can go even like this.
Yeah, I catch what you're saying. There's so many. You had so many good points. I hope I remember everything. But in a way, I feel like everything I've done in life has put me in this situation to help this problem, to help people understand. Being some of the first generation of Finnish people of color, I feel like has put me in a situation to speak on this topic, but also the angle of what we have talked about, youth gangs or something like this. I think this is exaggerated greatly. We do have some young people that are doing poorly right now.
Yeah.
And I think we have to understand what is going on, and especially after COVID, we actually have more young people doing better than ever. But the small group that is having trouble, they're having more trouble also than ever. So it's kind of going both ways at the same time.
The cut is deeper.
Yeah, the cut is deeper, and they're further away from each other than they have been. And I think this is important to realize. And I'm so happy that when I went to college, I studied something that I wanted to study. And I wasn't too pressured about what will I do in life and this, because I studied sociology and criminology. I studied, phenomenon like this and how these things happen in society. And it is just like you explained. If people feel like they don't have a home, if they feel like the society isn't theirs, or if they feel like they don't have a community, or they're not in a community, is when you lower the threshold of going to the other side of the law, of breaking the law, because you don't have that community. But if you have strong community ties, or you feel like you're part of something bigger, you will not break this so easily. Because then you will be not only breaking the law, but you'll be breaking your ties to this community. And I think this is what some young people are looking for. They're looking for themselves. They're looking to find a community where they belong. And in the worst cases, sometimes these groups where they commit crimes or where drugs are involved, these are the communities that give them the sense of home. And
they identify with the community, with the wrong community.
Yeah, and this is dangerous. And I talk to a lot of young people, and there's even in newspaper articles, they have these, and they ask people, how do you identify? And they always give their parents' country. And this is also a new thing in Finland, if you think about it. We haven't had immigrants for that long of a time, so we really don't know how to talk about it.
Exactly.
We should actually talk about it more, so we could learn how to talk about it in correct terms and understand what it means. And we talk about a lot of time we talk about youth, like we always talk about immigrant backgrounds. And I try to remind people that these are Finnish people. They're born in Finland. You know, like for the stats, yes, we need to maybe document where their parents are from. But in the end, we have to understand that this is a Finnish problem.
It's true, and it's much more complex. And thank you for explaining this, because it is more complex.
Yes.
And also the way we talk, we make it, we define the problem the way we talk about it. So it's really good points. And you were touching the community. It's really important because you have a self identity, and normally it's something that you build thinking like, okay, how do I feel? What do I think? And what differs me from you? Why it's me different than Shawn and the other? But then you have this social identity, and it's the opposite. Like, who else has my same view, and who can I relate to? So if you don't have this community, then you are missing. You cannot compare yourself to anyone, and you're lost there, thinking like, okay, so I like this, but where do I belong? And you get lost. So that is really and sport offers this community, and it's something really important. There are many cases in different countries, but also in Finland, where sport has saved people, has saved people from bad direction, or given people of all sorts. Because anyway, this thing that you don't belong to a community, it might happen to everyone. It's not only if you are a second generation immigrant, it can happen to everyone. But sports, it's really important. It gives you this community and sense of belonging. And then you have a responsibility, and you start thinking that you want to do good for the other. So I think sport is something that it should be cherished also in a way as a social tool.
And this is so important. This is one of my passion projects is sports and how it unites people, and it kind of reminds me how you said earlier about this country, how we love sports.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
we love sports. We love people.
Let's leverage this.
Yeah, we always love how we do in sports. And in a way, at least for me, sports was always a place where everything was fair. We have the rules, it's simple. Everybody's on the same line in sports. So in a way, it was just so pure for me. And it was my basketball court has always been my safe place. Yeah. Whenever I have had any kind of troubles in life or worries or anything else, basketball is a place where I can forget about those and I can kind of just let go because I understand it. It's so easy to understand. Problems in society are very difficult and they go deep. Complex and you don't know. But the basketball court is wonderful. It's so simple. Everything is easy. And when I look at this, I kind of wanted to set out a change because if we look at how sports is built in Finland, who are really carrying sports here? I feel like it's the parents of kids. You know, it's the parents of kids, and they're carrying it either financially or they're using their time to do this.
Indeed.
And if we look at socioeconomic stats, a lot of families who have maybe background of immigrants or they have immigrated here from somewhere, they might have cultural differences where they don't view sports as important. It's not the same thing. So they might not see it's like, why are you spending time in the sports because
it's valuable.
It's not valuable. They don't see anything in it of value. And so there's the cultural aspect of sports, but then there's also the time and the financial
economic.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you don't see the value, and then you get the bill of your kid playing football, you say, how can it cost this much for my child to kick a ball?
Let's stop it.
You can go outside and play for free. Why am I paying this much money for this?
Yeah.
And we have not done a great job of building a system where I think every person kind of has the same chances to go into sports. Then it is there, but it's invisible. It's very difficult for people to find unless you're kind of in the community.
That's true. I hope that you can, because now you are, you enter politics.
Yes.
And with the Green Party, I hope that you're going to push these kind of things also.
This is I have spent the last, so I've been a councillor of Helsinki for 3 years now.
Yeah.
And I felt like I've been learning, I've been going through stuff. and I've been trying to, kind of find ways of how can I influence this, how can I do this, because this is really the my project. What I want to push is how can we make sports or hobbies available for everybody in the way, kind of a revolution like we accomplished with our schools a long time ago. But how can we make this revolution with this? Because the demographic of people, it's different now than it was before.
Yeah,
and now we have
absolutely.
to adjust to this. The job that the school was doing before of taking off all the people of the peasants and
Exactly.
of all the higher people from higher society, and we all put all the kids in the same school. The job of this was to, for the country to come together in a way.
Yeah.
And now I feel like we're again in a place where we have to find how can this country come together in a way. And I feel like we have great resources in sports and hobbies and this, and we can really build communities inside our community.
That's really nice to hear, because anyway, school was exactly built for the same idea that let's give equal opportunities to everyone.
Yes.
So through education and a system, you would raise the bar of the whole society, giving the equal opportunities. But in sport now, as you were mentioning, and it's absolutely correct, there is no equality in the opportunity and availabilities of things that they are there, but there is no access. So I think that's equality. And if you would think like what kind of impact it can have in the long term in the society, you can start from giving equal opportunities to everyone to access this kind of services, and then from there you can raise the bar and you can create communities. Yeah.
I feel like the power can be strong. I feel like the people are doing it. They're doing their best. I feel like the sport clubs, they're trying. But then I feel like as a society, we're kind of like, it's okay, like we're not the public side doesn't. I don't feel like it's put its muscle behind building this,
You're right, and there is no talk about it, because where I live in the area, you get like the flyers, or the email, come and try football. There is this free trial. So the communities and locally there is push towards, but of course it can be seen as like, okay, the club wants to make money, they want my money, but there is no this big talk at the political level that how important actually it would be and what kind of societal improvement it can have in the long term. So absolutely, Shawn, you have to push this.
I'm gonna do my best, and this is the reason why I got into politics. So I don't want to forget it, and it's definitely something that I'm trying to get pushed, and it's gonna be one of the. I'm trying to leave my mark at least for my first 4 years of trying to really push this subject.
Yeah. I go back slightly still. I like the comment that you said that when you were going to the pitch, you didn't carry your problems with you and the pressure with you, and then everyone is equal there. And then I felt like, yeah, absolutely, that's correct, because
it's not so for everybody, but it was so for me. So I was lucky.
Yeah. I hope that everyone can get rid of the problems. I also play sports and stuff, so I know like how your brain then switches and set to something. But sport, it's it's like a razor. You measure yourself with others, and the skills are there or they're not there. You can do something or not do something. No one will judge you because you are higher, larger, different color. It's actually then the sport that judges you. So that's equalizing the field, and that's really important, because people might, or different community, people coming from different community, they might feel that, okay, now I have a ground here where I can affect how people look at me, and I am here just because of what I'm doing, not because I am certain color, certain height, certain background.
And it's so powerful. Sometimes I hear these stories about kids, but also I see with my own kids, and you might have experienced as well, when they play with other kids, sometimes they might not even have the same language, and it doesn't matter. With kids, it doesn't matter. They don't care. So the other person doesn't understand. Okay, so I'll show them another way. They don't mind about this. They don't care. And then like one one of my friends in politics who came from Turkey, Ozan Yanar, he talks about how he learned Finnish language was on the football pitch, playing football, you know, and he learned, you know, he picked up the language with playing with kids and being outside and doing something. And there's also there's a value that the sports brings that we don't see at all, because when you actually have to do something, it helps you learn the language in a way. Because when I think of all the countries I was at, the easiest language to learn for me was Italy. I didn't learn how to speak Italy, but I learned how to speak restaurant Italian. And I learned how to, you know, I learned the very basics, you know, and I could learn how to maybe listen to a little bit of conversation. But it was because I was put in a situation where I could hear the language in a way, and I kind of had to use it, and I had to do it. And the same can be with sports, you know, it can expose you to the language in a way that maybe other environments can't.
Did you get now, are you getting from the work as a politician, and now you're talking about this project, and I following you on social media, I can see that you are also involved in social projects, helping people, disabled people, or you're really involved into sports also with your heart. Are you getting out of your new life and this in politics the same emotions, and are you passionate as you were being the captain of the Finnish team?
I am as passionate, but like I said before, the feelings they can never be the same level, because it's so hard to explain. And when you look another athlete in the eye, they understand immediately because they know. But it's more about finding passions and finding those small things that really, they're not small things because we're talking about society, but those things that really push you and motivate you and can find a way to keep you going in the way. Because like I said before, you kind of have to kill your career in the way of basketball player. You have to kill your player, that I'm not a player anymore, I am something new, and then I have to realize, what do I need to do to become this new, because I can't always carry around Shawn the player everywhere and be like, oh, I'm player in this, but I have to find new things, and I have to grow as a person also to do different things. But sports is always going to be a part of my life in a way or another.
Yeah, and also I think that if you are the ex-basketball player, Shawn, and you are pushing this kind of agenda and these topics, yes, of course, the fact that you still carry basketball inside you, they mean, and they give the message that you are carrying forward much more thickness. So it's really important. You don't need to abandon that part. You are just entering a different part of your career in a different role, and you're pushing other things, but it's actually from quite an internal and quite a knowledgeable point and starting point that you are talking about this. So it's really important actually what you have done before for what you're trying to push forward.
Yeah, well, thank you. I certainly like to think so myself. And like I said before, it's just trying to find a purpose or meaning or something that, you know, motivates me of, you know, building myself and maybe building a better place for all of us.
Yeah. Isn't it the saying that you can take the boy out of the city, but not the city out of the boy?
Yes, this is such a true saying, yeah.
So you cannot take the basketball out of Shawn.
No, it's impossible, because even when I've tried in a way to separate myself from basketball because I wanted to grow as a person.
Yeah.
But I always find that it's always pulling me back. And it's also in a way I would be turning my back towards basketball that has also giving me all these opportunities to do things. So I also have to be grateful for this. And this is why you maybe see me trying to give back, you know, visiting schools.
Yeah, exactly.
Whenever I have time, you know, trying to help teams, junior teams, going to these tournaments and seeing juniors, because basketball has done so much for me in my life. And even if I keep doing these things for the rest of my life, I can never repay that debt.
Yeah.
But I will try. I'll try in a way to help to pay it back.
Really good job as I'm following, and then now in politics probably, and hopefully you can make a more direct impact and change things from within, proposing new programs for the society. Thank you, Shawn. This was really interesting. I really enjoyed. Thank you for talking about your life and how you were raised and how you experienced your life at the beginning. And you have had during this chat and also in other interviews that I've seen, you always want to look at the bright side. Even if you're talking about these problems, you always want to underline the fact that you have had a lot in your life and a lot good. So it's really nice that you can give a realistic perspective, but still turning it into something positive. That it has been good, and it can be good for others.
Thank you.
Thank you for this, and hopefully you are successful in politics and in these projects of yours. And I hope you get the same thrills or slightly the same emotion kicks from something else.
Thank you very much. This was my pleasure.
Yes, bye.